si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bësal mu fine.
What?
Bësal mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave acts in Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bësal mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
It's 2 minutes past 9 o'clock. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez live on West Coast Radio 92.1. We are also on YouTube courtesy of Wave and Jar Oil. I'd like to thank those of you who've been messaging us. Good morning, Uncle Peter. I have 2 questions for Mr. Essa Faal. I'm sure he'll be very happy to know that even before he starts talking, people have taken an interest in what he is about to say. Is his party fully registered with the IEC? And 2, if he is offered a job with the borough government, will he accept it? Don't worry, he'll get to that. Let me introduce him first. Essa, welcome back.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you again. And
Same here.
Absolutely. You know, there's an annoying Gambia High School alumnus who is listening to this program. I always find pleasure in welcoming back, you know, old Saints folk. And it's good to tell him that you are, you know, an old Saints boy. Very proud to be.
We beat them at everything. They just clap for us from the sidelines.
Lamin Mane, I was trying to, you know, hide your identity, but I'll expose you.
Hello, Lamin.
No, good to have you. You know, Taf came here last Tuesday, and he proposed that we began a conversation by doing a SWOT analysis of the Gambia. And I think I'm going to, you know, try it with you. If you were to do a SWOT analysis of the Gambia, what would you say are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats? You know, this, you know, Alaji Barrow likes to call it this colonial space offers.
I like Alaji Barrow. I like the way he
Unfortunately,
thinks.
not every Gambian likes Alaji Barrow.
No. We don't always get along.
Yeah.
When we do, it's a dynamite. But I love him. I like the way he interrogates issues. Not that I always agree with him, but I also like the way he presents them. He has a unique way, which is really nice.
Absolutely.
I enjoy reading his writings.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I.
So now to the SWOT analysis of Gambia.
Yes.
This is an interesting exercise. I have never given much thought to it. But just speaking off the cuff, and I would think one of our biggest strengths is our peace. Because you can't do much if you don't have peace.
True.
And I can also credit President Barrow for the democracy that we enjoy today. Both issues, the peace and the democracy. Because we do not have much rancor when it comes to these things. So the environment is there really for Gambia to take off. So those are the strengths, I would say. What are the opportunities?
You're skipping the weakness, or
I will come to the weaknesses.
Okay.
I'll come to the weaknesses.
You don't necessarily have to follow the order.
No. Let's talk about the opportunities. We have opportunities in a few areas. We can make a Gambia a hub for trade. For the simple fact that we are an English-speaking country, surrounded by countries that do not use English as their official language.
True.
And the language for international business and even modern day diplomacy is the English language.
True.
So which puts us in an advantage position. Another thing is the bureaucracy that you would find in countries that speak other languages other than English is often over ballooned to the extent that there are maze of steps to achieve anything that sometimes can be quite discouraging, which you do not have in the English-speaking systems.
That's why they say experience is the best teacher. Here we are, some of us who haven't experienced the bureaucracy in Lusophone or Francophone countries, believing that we are overly bureaucratic in the
No. What would take 5 steps in Gambia could probably take 15 or 17 steps elsewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you go to Egypt, for instance, about 50, the last time I checked, about 50% of land in Cairo are not properly registered.
Seriously?
Yes, because of the bureaucratic steps it takes. So sometimes it takes a lifetime to go through all the steps to have it done. So, and people get discouraged, and that's why there's a lot of dead capital in Egypt. In here too, we have a lot of dead capital, because if you do not have the right paperwork, you cannot use the land as collateral for anything, because it's not properly titled. So that's a problem. But we do not have that much of a problem in Gambia. Our bureaucracy is not so big. In fact, our civil service is small compared to other places.
Well, we just discovered over 2,000 ghost workers. Absentee workers.
I will come to that one. I think that is one of Gambia's biggest problems. It's in fact, that brings me to the weaknesses. We have serious structural weaknesses. In the civil service, for instance, one is we have a lot of squared pegs in round holes. We have a lot of untrained people in the things that really matter. 3, oversight is a big problem. 4 is the massive corruption that we have in the system. And that has presented a big challenge for Gambia. People come to Gambia, they want to invest into something, and people just make it impossible for that to happen, because there is no kickbacks in it for them. And because there is no kickbacks in it for them, they're not interested.
Corruption was high on the agenda of the recent elections in Romania.
Yes. In Eastern Europe, corruption has been a problem for a while. I remember in 2005, when I was the head of large projects at the International Development Law Organization, I participated in devising a program to combat corruption for Bulgaria. It ultimately became very successful. But during those days, Eastern Europe had a big problem with corruption, and accession into the EU, combating corruption, was one of the requirements. So all those countries had to really buckle their belts to fight corruption. That's how I was involved.
Yeah. I'm just simply saying how the issue of corruption was used effectively by the opposition
in that election. I hope to be able to do that come 2026, because the corruption in the Gambia is quite massive. We cannot afford.
We deal with corruption on its own. Let's continue with the SWOT analysis.
Okay.
We haven't got to the threats yet.
Fantastic. So corruption is maybe yes. Corruption is one of the threats. I mean, the other threats that I have identified is the structural problems in government itself, the lack of proper oversight mechanisms and things like that. The other threat that we have, nobody talks about it,
which
is the problem with security. Because for the first time in Gambia, we are beginning to see daylight robbery. People stand at the banks and wait for people to come out with big wads of money, and they drive behind you and attack you. People attack you in your homes. You know, in 2021, when I was launching my campaign, I said, we have to take security very seriously. For some of us who think that we have made it and built big fences around our homes, thinking that we are secure. It's our watchmen who will come after us.
Oh.
Yes, I said it.
That's scary.
Yes, I said it. Sometimes the things I say turn out to be just like exactly what happens later on. So I pray to God that the nice things I say would also happen.
Amen to that.
So that's why somebody sent me a video of one statement I made a while ago, and I was wow. But the reason why
it was what, prophetically correct?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. But also this is the benefit of experience. I was in Kenya after the post-elections violence of 2007, investigating what happened so that I could properly defend Ruto and Kenyatta. And what I saw there in Muthaiga was exactly what I was describing. Because people outside the tall fences are so poor, they don't have anything to eat. Whereas those in the big fences, they have it all. And you think that by just giving them little to get by, they would let you go scot-free. No. When a problem arises, you would be their first target. Sometimes it shouldn't be as bad as we have seen in this country, but these things do happen. And that's why I always claim that we should have a fairer and more just society, a society in which people should be able to get by, no matter how poor they are. If we do not establish that kind of a society, we'd have a serious problem in Gambia. But back to the threats. Security is going to be a huge problem. And with security, we've been kicking the ball down the road, the can down the road, when it comes to security sector reform. Up to now, our Gambian security forces are kept in limbo. In my book, they are being disrespected because they are being viewed as untrustworthy or incompetent to the extent that we cannot entrust them with the security of the state. Can you imagine almost 9 years of a peacekeeping mission in Gambia when this country is more peaceful than those countries from which the soldiers who are intended to keep the peace in Gambia come from? Gambia is certainly more peaceful than Nigeria, certainly more peaceful than Ghana in my book, certainly more peaceful than Senegal in my book. Why must we have their security forces in our country pretending to be keeping the peace?
The answer has been provided. It's not for the Gambia government to decide when ECOWAS leaves. That's a decision left with ECOWAS.
No, I disagree fundamentally.
That's what they explain.
That is wrong law. Whosoever advised them about that is not telling them the correct law. I would not be so insulting to say that the person who advised that does not know the law. But there's one fundamental principle of law, that is sovereignty. My friend, any lawyer should know that. Every nation has a sovereign will to decide what it wants for its country.
So Barrow could wake up one morning and say, ECOMIG, ECOWAS, thank you so very much for the past 8 years of stabilizing our security and whatever, but it's time to go, and ECOMIG will pack up and leave.
They will have to pack up and leave. They will have to pack up and leave. ECOMIG can argue, but this is contrary to the agreement we have. This is contrary to the arrangements that were put in place. Fine. But notwithstanding, you'd have to go. So the breach could give rise to different consequences, but it would not give rise to staying put because of the sovereignty of the country. It's just like you have a person employed and you want the person to go. What do? Must the person say, I have a contract and I must therefore stay? No, you cannot force yourself into employment with a person. So, yes, your rights, your contractual rights would have been violated, but it gives rise to other arrangements. That is compensation for your losses. That is damages, but you cannot force it. So I think Gambia government, they just bluffed their way through. It is their modus operandi. They hoodwink the people. They come and tell us crazy stories, because the thing is, most of our people...
Well, thank God for people like you, who investigate the true story, and hopefully that's what you share on the radio. Now, as a lawyer and also somebody aspiring to become the head of state of this country, what's your understanding of the raison d'etre of ECOMIG, and is there justification for its continuity in this country?
Let's call a spade a spade.
What's the spade here? What's the name of the spade?
Barrow is afraid of Gambia's armed forces. He does not trust them. He thinks that it is padded with Gambia loyalists, and therefore he is afraid to be overthrown. That is the truth of the matter.
Why would he then promote the current CDS to his position and, name new generals if he doesn't, have confidence in them?
Well, there you have it. You're talking about new,
or is that
new.
Is that all tokenism?
No, it's not necessarily tokenism. Okay, it's rather rewarding and buying loyalty, such that those people would be loyal enough to ensure his protection. That is it. And you cannot blame him. You cannot blame him, because Gambia, how many coup attempts have we had under Jammeh? There were plenty. And the same people are still there.
But you could justify that Jammeh, was inviting these coup attempts because he was overly repressive.
Yes, that is true. But Barrow can equally justify that by suggesting that the army was almost built to protect Jammeh, even though there were miscreants within the army who thought it necessary to try to overthrow Jammeh.
Well, the purge started almost immediately. The Usman Baji fellow, who was the CDS at the time, was quickly got rid of.
But was Barrow comfortable enough with the level of the purge? Because to have purged all Jammeh loyalists...
Well, why would he have brought in Masane Kinte then? Kinte was supposed to have come in and done that job for him.
I don't think that they were satisfied. I don't think that he was comfortable. And that is why we have ECOMIG. Otherwise, what would be the reason? Who is our threat in Gambia here?
So what do you understand ECOMIG are doing now, apart from engaging in public relations exercises, taking rice here and there during Ramadan and what have you?
Their only purpose here is to prop up Barrow's government, to ensure Barrow's protection. That is the only thing.
Senegal alone could have done that.
Yes, but it wouldn't have been popular. That's the problem. So the easiest way to convince the Gambian people, remember, Gambia and Senegal, we have a love and not so love relationship. I would not say hate.
I would say love-hate relationship, especially when it comes to football.
Exactly. But also when it's other things, we are always suspicious of them. And because of that, it would not have been very palatable to have only Senegal. And that is why they made it an ECOWAS thing. And also, remember, for Jammeh to leave Gambia, ECOWAS had to be directly involved to some extent. So this is the reason. But the fact of the matter is, it is offensive to our sovereignty to have these foreign forces in Gambia. It is demoralizing for our armed forces. And it's in fact an insult to them, to put it not so mildly, because we need to call it by its proper name. Look, Gambian armed forces, we can be very professional. I have worked with them in several countries. In Sudan, when I was investigating the al-Bashir genocide, the Gambian armed forces were there, and they performed exceptionally well. Many of them won medals. Equally in East Timor, in East Timor, in fact, Gambian police and Gambian military occupied very senior and regional command positions. So this shows that some of these guys can be very, very professional. I wish the Barrow government had given them a chance. I was one of the few who started making this clarion call. Respect the Gambian soldiers, put them in their rightful places. At least now, when we see the president, the person behind him is a Gambian soldier. Previously was Senegalese. And no wonder, I mean, if you have the foreign forces in the outside the bedroom door of the president, I think that is too invasive. That is too much. And for some countries, this is a very serious problem. I recall having a conversation with me, Kofi Annan, former Secretary General, Babukar Bless Jany, former permanent representative of the time, and
also foreign minister,
yeah. And Tariq and this guy, Tariq Aziz of Iraq. And we were, because Gambia was president of the Security Council, we were trying to negotiate easing of the restrictions, really, by Iraq for the inspection regime. Tariq Aziz was saying, do you want us to allow these foreign forces up to inside our palaces, up to inside the bedrooms of our president? We will not do that. And for the Arabs, they were ready to die for it. Here we are, having foreign forces in the kitchen of the president, outside his bedroom door, who knows, maybe even inside his bedroom, and to the extent that they are even able to steal food.
I was going to say letting them into the kitchen was a bad idea, because they now start stealing food.
So, Peter, I think this is ill-advised. I noticed lately, because you remember from 2021, no, from 2017 until recently, President Barrow has never visited the military camp. It's until recently that he started to build a relationship with the army. Why is that? He now knows that time is up, because it's no longer tenable, it's no longer justifiable to continue to have ECOMIG in the Gambia, so he's now trying to make incremental amends.
Yeah, but that makes sense, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. I am saying,
when you lose an option, you move to another option.
Well, okay, and his actions should be seen as hypocritical, because when he knew that ECOMIG was going to be here for long, he did not care about them. He is only caring now about them because he knows that he no longer has a choice. And that is unfortunate for the president of a country. He should have really demonstrated that he is commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He should have built that relationship with our army. He should have been present with them, because that is his primary function, being commander-in-chief. He sacked that responsibility.
How would you prove to the Gambia National Army, the Gambia Armed Forces, let me say in general, that you have full confidence in them if you became president in 2026?
Look, by showing them that I am one of them.
You will inherit a garde corps that is international. Would you sack them at once?
No, I will not inherit a garde corps that is foreign. I will not. From day one, I'll have Gambian forces around me. Look, if Gambians would deem me worthy to elect me as their president, I will trust them enough with myself. I will not run away and cower and hide behind foreign forces. I will not do that. If Gambians think that I do not deserve to be in there, let them not put me there. And Gambians include members of the Gambian forces who are very loyal to their country. I do not think there is any one of us who could claim higher loyalty to this country than members of the armed forces, because they are the ones who decided to wear the uniform and carry the gun for one sole purpose, that is to protect our country, for which they are ready to die. How many of us can claim that? So I trust them. I love them. And I'd be happy to be their commander-in-chief. I'll be happy to work hand in hand with them to ensure the security of this country.
To be their commander-in-chief, you need, the wider confidence of, the voting population. I'm sure by the next count, we would hit 1 million. The last time we were, 900 and whatever thousand. And one criticism you hear leveled against Essa by Faal is he only comes in close to election time and then, goes out again. He's busy with his contracts overseas. When will Essa by Faal move in to stay with Gambians throughout, all right, to feel the pain that the rising cost of living is inflicting on every Gambian? Every Gambian is, not every Gambian, except for the few privileged, are complaining about this rising cost of living.
You're right. This is a very loaded question, but I'll try to answer it. I think it's an unfair criticism, but it's born out of misinformation. The last time I ran under pressure from the people. I had no prior interest in politics.
The people demanded you.
Yes.
They wanted Essa by Faal to run for office.
Yes.
Even if Essa had said Pareguma, they simply said, no, we want you now.
Look,
now.
Even up to if you would ask the person who moderated my launching, Mr. Drame, Haruna,
yeah.
He would tell you that the program was almost postponed or cancelled because I had to make the decision under pressure. But I said that, look, if this is what the people want me to do, I will make the sacrifice and do it. At that time, the Gambian people thought that it was too early to jump into politics. In fact, the main criticism was that I did not finish the TRRC, which the government ran with and used as part of their campaign. But that was a lie.
Well, they employed you. They are in a position to tell whether your contract expired or not before.
No, that was a lie. It was a political lie. I understand that they had to use that, but it was a lie, and they knew that it was a lie. And they have used lots of, let me use the language, not so colorful language. Let me say that was untrue, because Gambians don't like the word lie.
Oh, I don't have. I have done that. It's not Wolof.
Exactly.
It's English. It's okay to say lie in English.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they knew that I had written the TRRC reports and completed them. And the TRRC had signed off on all the reports and all the recommendations. What else am I doing there? So some people wanted the TRRC to continue because they were making money. Imagine if a person was earning $3,000 and now earning $100,000. Do you think they would want that gravy train to end? No. So a lot of people wanted to drag this on. In fact, government knew that I was under pressure to run, and they wanted to block me from running. It's government who came and forcefully extended.
Forcefully extended?
The TRRC, yes, because we were ready to go. Oh. And they said, no, we are going to extend this, because the AG said he will not receive the reports. Because what happened was the TRRC reports came in two sets. One is the compendium, comprising of all the findings and recommendations of each team. And then you have the thematic reports. The compendium was ready and completely edited. But the thematic reports needed some fine-tuning. Yeah. So the TRRC proposed to provide, to hand in the compendium, which is the findings and recommendations, and the thematic reports would be left with an editor to finalize and give to them. They refused because government wanted to extend the TRRC, because by doing that, they think they are going to block Essa from running. That's the story. I avoided.
I was going to say, did you make a mistake by not clarifying then? At that point in time.
The thing is, it's the way I am brought up. I do not like causing unnecessary trouble, unnecessary rigmarole, unnecessary, that's not my style. So I just thought...
Well, it's hurting you now,
yes.
or it has hurt you.
Yes. Remember, President Barrow went to Basse and said Essa Faal is earning $500,000.
Were you not earning $500,000?
That, again, was not true. And the president ought to have known that that was not true. Because, okay, the lead counsel for commissions at that time, the ongoing rate was $500,000. I understand Ami Bensouda was being paid $500,000. My apologies, senior counsel, for saying this, but that is the truth. So when I came, the expectation was that Essa was also earning this $500,000. No.
Did you ask to earn as much?
No, no. I agreed with Batambedu to do this almost gratis.
Oh.
TRRC I did at no pay for Gambia government. I did it gratis. The $100,000 I was paid was for my transportation cost because I was doing business in Dakar and running my consultancies. So they wanted me to be here to do the TRRC. But I needed to be in Dakar every weekend.
So let's get this straight. You were not earning a salary, you were only accepting an allowance of $100,000 per month.
Pretty much. We called it a salary. But that was to compensate for my transport cost because I need to be in Dakar every weekend. My business was there. So we calculated how much it will cost me to be in Gambia for the week, and then I rush to Dakar for the weekend, look after my business, and then I'll come back.
Okay, but whether you call it a salary or allowance or transport refund or whatever, you were the highest earner, right, in the TRRC?
I am not so sure. Possibly. But I was paid initially $100,000, and then Batambedu realized that this was not enough for this man's transportation cost. So he asked another $10,000 to be added. That was after a year. So I was earning $110,000.
And you wouldn't know whether the chairman was earning more or...
I really don't know. But I think the commissioners were earning $100,000 each. So that
and you had 110.
Yes.
Okay.
You see. But the thing is, I could have been earning 500,000.
Would you know whether the CRC chair was earning 500,000?
No, I don't know that. I don't know.
Would you know whether
different.
the NHRC chair is earning 500,000?
No, but these are different institutions.
Well, commissions are commissions, aren't they?
No. There are commissions that comes with risks to life, and there are certain commissions that don't, like TRRC.
It comes with risk to life.
Of course, it was quite glaring.
Jamie could have sent, hitmen.
But remember that the first week or few weeks into the TRRC, evidence came out of a list that was compiled by Jamie, his death wish list. My name was there.
Oh.
So there were security threats around me. And they got the TRRC very cheap. They were to give me a car, an orderly, personal security, and a guard at home. They did not have enough money to buy the car. I bought my own car. In fact, somebody was so crazy the other day to say that, Essa Faal bought the Escalade from Jame Assets. Well, I got my Escalade even before Jame Assets were confiscated or sold. Anyway, about years before. So that's just a crazy thought. But I had to buy my own car, which is strong enough to be able to do the weekly trip from Banjul to Dakar and Dakar to Banjul. I refused to take the orderly. I refused to take the security guard. I refused to take the watchman. I refused to take the driver. I was paying my own driver. So they got it almost for free.
Okay.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
mu si Wave.
Yo apply, yo lu tax doo dee dégg lu tax mënuloo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Kan lay waxal?
Bësal mu fine.
What?
Bësal mu fine. Wave acts in Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bësal mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.
All right, we're talking to Essa by Faal, 7711599. If you have a question or comment for him. I mean, it's already, 35, 36 minutes, and we haven't even,
You're still warming up, Peter.
Started seriously. But what about
but Peter,
the residency question?
What residency?
I told you people, criticize you that...
okay. Look, I did not leave Gambia to just go and live in The Hague and abandon Gambia. No. I mean, some people even ask me, are you in The Hague or are you in Gambia?
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of time
When
in
I was
Gambia.
arranging this interview,
Exactly.
a third party, I said, but Essa is hardly ever in this country. Actually, Essa is right there with you.
Exactly. So my work arrangement at the ICC was I can work sometimes from home and sometimes from The Hague, and that is what I did. The residency requirements is that you are ordinarily resident. It doesn't mean that you are exclusively resident, you don't travel. No, you can go and come back for as long as I haven't severed my ties here. I was in The Hague alone, even without family, such that I can go and come as frequently as possible. So, I have, between my contract and now, I have been here more than 10 times. So why would you go to a place 10 times if you do not have?
Yeah. When you come, do you go up country? You're looking for votes up and down the country, from Banjul to Koina, if Koina is the last point of the Gambia.
Look, let them do a survey. Let them just do a survey.
When you say them, who?
Government, anyone. And check who is addressing the most pertinent issues for Gambians in Gambia. There won't be any politician who will beat me.
Yeah, but
because on a daily basis...
You could do that from Banjul. I'm asking whether you are connecting with people at the grassroots level.
To the extent that I can, yes. To the extent that I can. We have to also realize that I was doing a very important job for the international community, the ICC. This comes with important responsibilities. I would not just sack them and just go on a frolic of my own. But that is why I have decided to resign from the job, to focus on 2026. And I did that almost 2 years before 2026 elections. Remember, I filed the warrant of arrest application for the president of Myanmar in November. And I was ready to conclude by December. And the chief prosecutor of the ICC asked me to help and do other things. I did. Even now that I am here, I am back completely. I don't have to go to The Hague anymore. I still have some responsibilities towards the court because there are things that they want me to do, and I am doing them. But gone are those days that when you do a job for some institutions, you have to be there physically present. No, I am working virtually. Nowadays it's very easy.
Yeah, that's
but be rest assured, for those who thinking, oh, is he here or he's not here? I am here, and I am here for good.
Well, this morning he is here.
and I am focused exclusively, almost exclusively, on 2026. But that doesn't mean that I cannot do other things. I should have a life outside politics. It's a huge sacrifice being in politics in Gambia, to be quite candid. All right? At least for me. I am not running to people to take something from them. Some politicians do that. They live off people. I don't. I want to live off my own sweat. And to live off my own sweat, I have to work. I have to do consultancies. I have to give advice to governments and things like that. So it means I'd also have to travel now and again. It means I have to do work for other governments now and again. I have to survive. And also I am one of those politicians who people look up to help them with some of their problems. I thank God that I am able to give. And I want to be able to continue to do that. I don't want to be here wearing big haftans, going around and people contributing for my daily survival. I don't want that. So I have to work. And I do hope that people would understand that this person wants to earn his own living.
The thing about this country is, you know what they say, whether you're part of the gale or not, somebody will wrestle and fall, on you.
Yeah,
So
but I try not to wrestle back.
Yeah, well,
I when they wrestle, they come with a lot of stuff. I don't want to be stained by that.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that stuff, and some of the stuff you had for 2021. I'm yet to hear the new stuff, if there is any new stuff for 2026. Was that not only did you contribute in drafting some of the draconian laws for Yahya Jammeh, but you went on to defend criminals wanted by the ICC, Charles Taylor, you mentioned Ruto earlier on. And so what's the true story about how Essa Faal, gets his international consultancy work and legal work?
Okay, some people speak out of ignorance. Others out of deliberate lies. Some people know that what they're going to say is a lie, and they still go ahead to say it. That just shows how rotten our society is in some respect. But for some of these people, you also don't blame. But Gambia is a society where everybody thinks that he or she is a PhD in everything. People come up with stories. And sometimes you're so amazed as to how brazen or bold one could be to just concoct these stories. In the first place, about the decrees, I was a baby lawyer when the decrees were being written. I was called to the bar in August of 1994. How could I have been the author of the decrees?
The coup happened in July.
The coup happened in July.
Yeah.
My bar, July 22nd, my bar final results came out on the next Monday. That was around 24th or 25th of July. My bar final results came out. So but by then I was already working at AG Chambers. Not as a lawyer, but because I was bonded. So from straight out of law school, we have to now report to AG Chambers.
Bonding means because government sponsored his education, he had to work for a certain number of years.
So in fact, I did not want to work for government.
Which is why you were bonded.
Yes. So because when we arrived, we were four lawyers who qualified. Myself, Aida Jallo, Rachel Mboj, and Musa Gassama, and the late Henry Carroll.
Okay. 5
of us. AG Chambers had 3 vacancies. Henry Carroll was already a staff of AG Chambers, the late Henry. Musa Gassama did not want to be a lawyer. He did not want to be a practicing barrister. Rachel Mboj did not want to work for government. She was
now Rachel Mendy, Mrs.
Rachel
Mendy.
Mendy. So it was 3 of us. They had 3 positions, but there were 4 of us: Musa Gassama, myself, Aida Jallo, and the late Henry Carroll. I told Mrs. Bensouda that I want to go to private practice. She said, "No, Mr. Faal, you have no choice about this. You are going to stay here." Because she held our results and knew who was who. And she decided that, Musa Gassama, I think I'm better off sending you to the magistracy. Essa and Ida would have to stay here at the AG Chambers. For Henry Carroll, they had no choice because he was already a staff there. Rachel went to practice. So I did not want to work for government. But so how could I have been the person who drafted decrees? I was the most junior lawyer at the AG chambers at the time.
It didn't mean that just because you were not there in July or August or even September, you couldn't subsequently, because decrees were coming up all the time, weren't they?
Remember, decrees stopped coming.
When?
At the Second Republic, when the Second Republic came about. That is after the passage of the 1997 Constitution.
Yeah, but we're talking about 1994 now, aren't we?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment.
Yes, sure.
I worked at the AG Chambers 1994 to 1995. Then I had a scholarship to go and do a master's. So I wasn't there for the rest of 1995 and all of 1996 because I did master's degree in legislative drafting and public law. So when I came, I became acting parliamentary counsel, the one who would draft the laws of the country. So because of that position, they thought I drafted decrees. But decrees had stopped with the ushering of the 1997 Constitution.
Again, that was almost 3 years after.
Exactly. But I wasn't there. I was in the AG chambers. I was only there for 1 year before I went for masters. So during that time, I was a trainee lawyer. Who would trust me to write decrees at that time?
Well, don't forget that David Colley was, grade 9?
No, but that would not happen at the Ministry of Justice. Remember, the Ministry of Justice...
With Jammeh, anything can and anything did happen.
The thing is, Jammeh refused to let me go and do my masters. I had somebody lying, saying that I was hustling to go into the army. I tried to negotiate to be given captain and things like that. That is far from the truth. And
was it lucrative to be a lawyer in the army then?
Yes, it was. I was his Sabali. She would not let me lie. She was Attorney General at the time. Jammeh hustled her to move me to the army and to move Alaji Marong to the police. Alaji Marong is now PhD. He's secretary to the African Union, something. Brilliant lawyer. And Jammeh insisted that Essa Faal must go to the army. He's invited me to his office and negotiated. Edward Singate helped negotiate. I refused. Okay. They offered me everything up to the rank of major. I refused. Those were the highest ranks at the time. So for some people to come out and say Essa Faal wanted to go to the army, it's bullocks.
Or Essa Faal contributed to the decrees, you're saying?
It's nonsense. Okay. It's utter nonsense.
Okay.
There are two individuals here. I would not glorify their nonsense by calling out their names, but no matter what I do, they will insult me, they will criticize me. Because at the TRRC, I refuse to give them a platform to continue their lies. My job at the TRRC was to help find the truth about what has happened in Gambia. I will not give a platform to habitual liars to come and lie to the nation.
Okay.
So now they're hearing me. Next day, tomorrow, boom, they would go on the internet and insult me again.
It's a democracy. It's unfortunate.
But look, I am used to their lies.
What about, according to your critics, your choice of criminals to defend? Because that brings in, money. Nobody wants to defend them, so Essa Faal goes in there and charges them an arm and a leg. Okay, let me tell you something. The cases I did are cases that all lawyers in the world run after, those at the top. You cannot run after those cases if you know that you stand no chance. These are cases that attract the best lawyers in the world. These are cases that also pay top money. So for you to be chosen out of thousands of lawyers in the world, it speaks volumes about your capacity and your capability. So we have to have that straight. For anyone to choose a Gambian lawyer to come and defend them, I think that is a big kudos to our country for producing lawyers of that capability. I think that is what needs to be celebrated. Okay, people must realize that
as a lawyer, we have what is called the Carbrine principle, that we have a duty to represent persons accused of crimes. We have a responsibility to defend people or to assist people legally who have legal matters. That is our job as lawyers. That is what we do. Let me tell you, I have never defended a criminal who shed Gambian blood. I have never done that. I have never even defended a case in Gambia. But people are here in politics like me who've defended criminals in Gambia. But this is what we do. This is what lawyers do. Look at 1981.
You wouldn't criticize those people?
No. I would celebrate them. I learned from them. I thank them for showing me the way. Principal amongst them is Ba Usainu Dabo. He represented many of those who were accused of treason in 1981. And he managed to get a lot of them off the hook. Can you imagine the travesty it would have been if any one of those people would have been hung simply because there is some evidence that was produced against them, whether that evidence was a lie or not. So these are important principles. Then next to the next point, people say I defended Charles Taylor. No, I did not.
You did not?
No, people don't understand. I came to represent Charles Taylor after he was sentenced for 50 years imprisonment, and after his appeal has been concluded. Okay? That is when Charles engaged me. You know who was his lawyer before me?
Who was?
The current prosecutor of the International Criminal Court was his first lawyer.
Khan.
Khan.
Ah.
And Khan left. Then Courtney Griffiths, King's Counsel of the United Kingdom, one of the most famous black lawyers in the world, represented Charles Taylor.
We remember him on, he gave most of the interviews on BBC at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Huh? And Courtney was my friend as well. So when Courtney left, Cherno Jallow represented Charles Taylor. Cherno Jallow is now aspiring to be a judge in contest with Batambedu to become a judge at the International Court of Justice.
Cherno Jallow?
Charles Jallow.
Okay, I was going to ask whether of the CRC.
No.
Okay,
Charles Jallow of Sierra Leone.
Okay.
All right? And then when all those were done, then Charles engaged me, because I am one of those unique lawyers at the ICC, or the International Criminal Bar, who is a top investigator and a top trial lawyer. Okay? So that's why my services are highly sought after. So Charles, his complaint was, okay, first, people don't understand that Charles Taylor was not investigated or prosecuted for crimes committed in Liberia. Charles was investigated and prosecuted for crimes committed by the RUF in Sierra Leone.
Revolutionary United Front.
Okay? And the reason is because Charles had allegedly provided weapons and financing to the RUF to go and fight in Sierra Leone. Isn't that what America does on a daily basis? Isn't that what all these Western powers do? Wasn't that which brought Charles Taylor to become head of state of Liberia? He escaped prison in the US. How did he get to Liberia? How did he get the arms to come and overthrow Samuel Doe in Liberia? But this is something that states do on a daily basis. Wasn't Jammeh doing that for Casamance? He was doing that. So countries or heads of states often provide weapons or financing to rebel groups in other countries.
Do you know if Barrow is doing that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I hope he isn't. So that should not be a basis to prosecute any head of state and sentence them to 50 years in prison. But Charles's case was unique. Charles had a falling out with the US. My guess is he therefore deserved to be punished. And therefore, they did this to punish him. I happen to be, because this area of practice is very small, all the players, we all know each other, I know all those who prosecuted Charles. In fact, if I would have access to my bag, I could show you the invitation to Charles Taylor's final day in court when he was being judged and sentenced. I was invited because some of those who prosecuted Charles are people that I have trained or people I have worked with. So we all know each other. We are all friends. We militate around the same circles. So therefore, Charles was sentenced because he is an African leader who had fallen out of favor with the U.S. government, and he was prosecuted for everything that for something that the U.S. does on a daily basis. Charles is the first head of state who is sentenced, convicted and sentenced for providing support to armed forces or rebel groups of another country. He was not prosecuted for crimes he has committed in Liberia. So Charles's human rights violation in Liberia was not an issue. That is something Gambians do not know. The other thing is, Charles felt that the reason why he was convicted was for an arms shipment for which he has no knowledge of. And he wanted someone, an expert investigator, who could organize that investigation and engage the court to revisit his judgment and challenge his conviction in court. Enter Essa Faal. Because I am one of those, that unique breed of lawyers in this business who can lead these investigations and also lead the case in court. That's how I came to represent Charles Taylor.
How do you think your critics will react to, you talking up yourself like that? I am one of those unique breed of...
But that is the truth. Whether they like it or not, that is the truth.
It takes me back
and that is the difference why when I want, I can go and work abroad and they have to stay here. That's the difference between us. We have to just accept it when people are able to achieve certain things. I think I am one of the most humble people one could ever meet. But because of that, I
I know a minister who would say that is the person with that person has a name of Adam Barrow.
Yes, but the thing is, because I am sometimes quiet about these things, people attack me because I don't explain these things. But let me say this. I represented Charles Taylor pro bono, for free.
Oh.
For free. Ibrahim Yila is the principal legal counsel for the Special Court for Sierra Leone. He's my junior. I trained him. I can provide his number. Let them call him. He will say, yes, Mr. Faal represented Charles Taylor for free, pro bono. The other person I represented...
Why did you do that? Because this would give you an international platform to, quote-unquote, market yourself?
No, all these lawyers want these cases because it's a badge of honor. It's only Gambia that I am being castigated for having represented Charles Taylor. Everywhere else they will say, wow, because these are complex and high-profile cases which would increase your standing in the international criminal bar. Mm. Every lawyer would want it.
Would you say it was that opportunity that ultimately led to you having this ICC job that you just quit?
Well, the thing is, it's a lot of things.
It put you on
I have done a lot of things.
It put you on an international,
Remember, I have worked on the cases of over 8 presidents.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I did Omar al-Bashir, president of Sudan. Okay. I did Uhuru Kenyatta, president of Kenya. Mm-hmm. I did William Ruto, president of Kenya. Mm-hmm. I did Charles Taylor, Liberia. Mm-hmm. I did Gaddafi, and I did president of Myanmar. So 7, maybe, and I did Yahya Jammeh, 8.
Wow. There you go.
So, and if you look at the International Criminal Bar, the list, and you look at the cases they have done, there is no one who registers that number of cases dealing with heads of state.
Well done, you.
So, but let me talk about Saif al-Islam Gaddafi.
Yes.
Gaddafi was convicted in Libya for the same and sentenced to death for the same crimes with which he was charged at the ICC. Double jeopardy.
This is legal language.
Yes.
What does double
there's
jeopardy mean?
There's a law that you cannot be prosecuted twice for the same crime.
Okay.
So he was already sentenced to death in Libya for the crimes he allegedly committed there. Okay. After a few years, out of a political settlement, he was pardoned. But the ICC indicted him and wanted to prosecute him and not to recognize the process in Libya. But before that, the Gaddafi family had engaged our team to advise them on how to deal with what was happening before Gaddafi was killed. And we gave them stellar legal advice. They rejected it. And all the things that we predicted in our memorandum, they started seeing it unfolding. And Gaddafi was trying to reach us before he was apprehended and killed.
Too late.
Too late. Yeah. So when this happened to Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, he decided to reach out to that same legal team. And therefore, Saif engaged me to help him. But this was even after his case was confirmed by the pretrial chamber, and then it has to go to appeals chamber. I represented him on appeal to argue that he should not be prosecuted because he's already been prosecuted. I did it for free. Again, pro bono. Wow. The only legal fees I had received for international criminal defense is the Kenyatta case and the William Ruto case. Fantastic. And those people, we got them acquitted. Well, not necessarily acquitted. The ICC withdrew their cases simply because the cases were bogus.
Excellent jam, si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mënuloo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Acts Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Bisul mu fine. Wave. Your money is yours.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.